All right. So for our last speaker, we're very fortunate to welcome Karen Moore and Paige Sochi Forgat from Sanctum House. I can give you guys a little introduction on both of them. Karen is the executive director at Sanctum House. She's a graduate of Michigan State University and was a global executive at Ford Motor Company before she was the executive director at Sanctum House. She has developed programs at Sanctum House to integrate a 24-month program for these victims and to allow a place for them to go. And Paige is a graduate of Sanctum House and was residing there from 2018 to 2020. She was a victim for 40 years and is now a survivor and has her own healthcare business where she takes care of patients in addition to mentoring other survivors of human trafficking. So let's give them the floor and hear about what they have to talk about, guys.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I'm Karen Moore, and this is Paige. And we wish we could be there in person because rather than a presentation, we really, when we do a lot of public speaking about human trafficking and the program that we offer these women. So if anybody has questions, please interrupt us because it just makes for a better quality dialogue. So, but I'm going to let Paige first tell a little bit about her story, and then I'll talk about human trafficking and the services that we provide here at Sanctum House. Okay.
Hi, Matt, thank you for that introduction. And it saddens me that we can't be there because I really like to do these things in person, but due to the circumstances, we'll improvise and do the best that we can with what we got. I don't claim to be this huge public speaker, but I find it to be my duty to let as many people know about this horrific crime that has been plagued on us for forever. Karen and myself are here to make you aware or to be able to identify potential victims that I promise you that you will encounter, if not have already encountered, and some tips on what you can do and what you can't do to help these victims. So I'm going to try to tell 40 years of this life in 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most, which we know is almost impossible, but I'm going to try to do my best. My name is Paige, and I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and I'm also a recovering addict. My experience happened at a very young age. I was a ward of the state at the age 7. I was in foster homes, group homes, juvenile homes, runaway shelters, you name it, I've been in it. The system pretty much failed me from the very beginning. I ended up in Pennsylvania at the age 9. And the last foster home that I was in, I was brutally raped by my foster father on Father's Day. And I tried to tell my protective service worker and nobody believed me. Me and another girl, we ran away and we went to her family. And because of many, many years of therapy, I know I've come to terms with this family sold me off to my first trafficker. They put me on a bus and sent me to New York. And my first trafficker was waiting for me at the bus station. He took me to a home, took me to a house, put me into a room with a dirty mattress and a bucket where I would use the bathroom. Beat me. I was a fighter. I always fought. So I was beat sometimes to unconsciousness. I even begged for death. They would feed me only if I was a good girl. They sent me, there was 3 different rooms that I would enter. I mean, I would visit. That would be the bathing room, the costume room, and then the trick room, and would be raped constantly. Some days, numerous times. And then there would be days that I wouldn't see anybody. I never knew what time it was. I never knew what day it was. The mental abuse was probably much worse. You eventually get used to the beatings, but the mental abuse was more traumatizing to me than anything. At the age 12, I was sold off to my second trafficker, which was a totally different experience. It was a little bit more glamorous. I had 9 wife-in-laws. I was the youngest girl. I barely ever seen my trafficker, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. We call it family dinner. I spent most of my time with my oldest wife-in-law. We would travel a lot. He would send us out of town. In that trafficking experience, it was more of a mental abuse than physical abuse, other than with tricks that would beat me and rob me or do whatever they did to me. By the age 16,
Good or not, it's done.
by the age 16, I found my biological mother and I came back to Michigan. And that's a story in itself. But by the age 19, I started using drugs very heavily. I was a heroin addict and a crack addict. I was trafficked pretty much through that whole experience. I ended up in prison. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been sliced in my face. I've been raped. It was, and the whole thing of the sad part about all this is that I thought I deserved this. That's what I was told. And I steady lived in this vicious cycle that I had not only have I allowed other people to create this for me, but I created for myself. I've been in and out of hospitals. I had really good experiences with some hospitals, and I've had some very traumatizing experience in other hospitals. My last high was March 17th, 2017. I OD'd on that carfentanil and been clean ever since. And I had about a year clean and was seeking more help. And I found Sanctum House. I have a saying that Narcotics Anonymous gave me my life and Sanctum House taught me how to live my life. And now I find it to be my duty to we have a saying in Narcotics Anonymous, I can only keep what I have unless I give it away. So I try to educate people on the horrors of this life that is happening right now as we speak. There's somebody that's being taken, or somebody that's life is at stake, somebody that's being raped constantly. So I have an amazing life today, and I never dreamt that I could have the life that I have today. So with that, I hope I gave you enough information on the horrors of trafficking. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and then we'll do this together. We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got some slides, but before I start sharing slides, I want to just, talk about what it is we do here at Sanctum House. We're proud to have been open almost 4 years now. And Paige was one of the first women that joined us. And when the women come, as Paige, so eloquently said, pretty broken. Both we deal with, co-occurring disorders of severe trauma along with addiction. We deal a lot with recovery from heroin, crack, cocaine, meth, alcohol, sometimes all of the above. Sometimes it's a means of control by the traffickers, and sometimes it's a preservation need to mask what's actually happening to them. So when they come to us, we are really proud. We have a very strong mental health care program, which is we have therapists that specialize in trauma. And we're partnering with Michigan School of Psychology. We have therapists, and we also have psychologists here doing their practicum work. So the women get individual therapy 2 or 3 times a week, depending on what they need. We have group therapy in the afternoons, and then we have NA and AA meetings in the evening. We have a very strong physical health care program. Trinity provides all health care to our women. So we partner with, the St. Mary's and the St. Joe's hospitals. And we get them on a path to heal mentally and physically. We like to say we have comprehensive and integrated care. Our case manager, integrates all the providers for mental health care, physical health care. We also work with psychiatrists out of both Wayne State Medical School and out of St. Mary's Hospital. So we ensure that each woman is on their own path and is receiving the individualized care they need. We also provide life skills training, education, legal skills. As you can imagine, many of the women have very serious legal issues, and Paige is still working on some of hers, but we've got a very strong team of lawyers that we work through the Michigan Bar that provide pro bono legal support to help the women with dealing with, we've got criminal issues, we've got family law, all different kinds. You can imagine that while they were in the life, many of the crimes were committed under duress. So there's new laws. We work actively with Lansing. There's new laws in place in the state of Michigan to potentially expunge records if the crimes happened while they were in the life. And Paige is actually working with some pretty high-powered lawyers right now to expunge her record, and vacate the record. So it's about the integrated comprehensive services to help the women take their life back. I mean, some people say, oh, why is it 2 years? Well, considering where they came from, one of our other graduates that graduated earlier this year, she so eloquently put it, she said that the first year took me to just really deal with internally what happened. The second year is to put a life back together, and what can I do, to prepare for going back, entering the world. Our women, the ages right now here at the house range from 23 to 61. We have a whole group that are getting ready to graduate and move on the first quarter of next year. And then we have a group that, about 5 or 6 that have joined us in the last 6 months. So we have women here at all stages of, recovery. We have staff 24/7. As I said, we work with Michigan School of Psychologists. We have psychologists doing practicum work here. Wayne State School of Social Work. We have master level social workers doing their practicum here. And we're starting a new program with University of Michigan, which is really kind of cutting edge. They have opened a doctoral program in occupational therapy, and we're doing, this is research on using occupational therapy techniques to help with dealing with trauma and substance abuse. So we're working so our partnerships in the community are growing. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak and talk about, the realities of human trafficking, and then also what the opportunities are to go forward. I could go through some slides, but, in the interest of time, it's basically the same thing of what I said. The indicators, I'm sure, being in the healthcare profession, the indicators are what you see for different homeless and addicted people, lack of identity, in with a controlled person, substance abuse, tattoos and things. But, a lot of it is just asking, are you safe? And I know a lot of those protocols are in place now at the different hospitals. When Paige was out on the street, a lot of those weren't in place. And, it should be in, from overdosing or from being beaten up. And people, I know sometimes you talk about the stories of how you were treated in the hospitals. And I know it's changed a lot, but, it's just, taking that step to ask the questions.
I think for myself, and I think I can speak for so many others, we've been so dehumanized for so long that for us to trust another human being to actually care about us, even when they ask, are you safe? My first response was, no, why would you care? But I know things are changing because we're educating more and more, and people are becoming more aware of this. And so I personally, my personal opinion is that doctors probably see it more often than the average person, or even more nurses. But I truly believe everybody needs to be educated, from all the way from the security guard to the registration, and which they might be, I don't know. But my goal is to educate as many people as I possibly can about this horrific crime.
Yeah,
Paige,
we've got-
Karen,
Yeah. Yes,
the state of Michigan gets it. And the state of Michigan, for those attendings that have their license renewal in 22, have to take a sex trafficking CME course. So the state of Michigan gets it, even
Right.
though it is so underground for most other people, it's underground, but it's not for the state of Michigan.
yeah. Healthcare providers, yes, are all required to have the continuing education. In fact, our original funding came from federal HHS, and me, along with our case manager, we were chosen to be, we're certified at the federal level to be able to do education for all different, curriculums, and we've done that at many hospitals in the
Yeah.
area. But yes, I think that is really key, because medical professionals, social workers, nurses, dentists, it's just about education and awareness.
And being able to identify it
Mhm.
when you see it, because it comes in all forms.
Right.
I mean, you can have the person that's not an addict, the person that's not beaten up, or that's we actually, society makes us think that a person being trafficked, because it could be just an innocent little girl that's going in there for a physical. I mean, it comes in all forms, in all sizes, and all looks.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think those are important factors too.
Mhm.
I have a question. Which, in Michigan specifically, which populations do you think are at higher risk? Which demographics?
Mhm.
I don't personally think, I think it's scattered in so many different ways. We have this idea that it's the drug addict, that the broken person, the prostitute that you see on the corner, and it's not necessarily true. I personally think that the social media is huge now, because especially with this pandemic, the victims are being pulled in through the social media.
Mhm. Yeah, in the demographics of the women that we've served since we've been open, over 70 women. And by far the majority are Caucasian, which the stereotype is not necessarily that. Education levels, we've had anywhere from a practicing attorney, an RN, a social worker, to minimal education or lack of education.
Yeah.
So it really scans all demographics and the ages. Right now we have 23 to 61 here, and then we've got a group that are in their 30s and in their 40s and in their 50s.
One thing that I think really holds true, that if you feel like something's going on, if you feel like something ain't right, 9 times out of 10 it's not right. And that's when I think I would investigate it further. I mean, I would look into it deeper. I mean, there's no age group, there's no certain, it varies in every aspect.
Yeah, and we're part of some research at the state and federal level, and it's becoming the fastest growing illegal criminal network in the world, because drug dealers, if you get some crack or some heroin, it can only be sold once, and if you get caught with it, I mean, you're caught. There's no way talking out of it. But if you have a young, cute girl or boy, you have a renewable commodity. As Paige said, she was in a room 5, 6, 7 times a night. So you've got a renewable commodity for money. It's all about greed. And because the legal definition is one of the 3 elements that must be a part of the crime is force, fraud, or coercion. So they have to be there unwillingly, either forced in, coerced into it for living situations, this is what you must do, or forced into it. And most people, a lot of the myths out there are that people are nabbed, like in the movie with Liam Neeson, Taken.
Right.
But that very rarely happens, and it doesn't, and it's not girls nabbed from the mall. It's very carefully recruited into it, because one time I was talking to one of the sheriffs in the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, and they said, you know, they always get these calls as, you know, the girls being nabbed at 12 Oaks or at Great Lakes Crossing. And they said, no, it doesn't happen, because those are the girls that would start screaming if they were stopped at a light or something. You know, it's slow recruitment, and, you know, foster care is a good target. You know, unhealthy families at home, lack of good parental support, family support, and it's a slow, methodical process. Oh, you know, I'll get you a new iPhone. I know your parents don't care, you know, and little by little, and then they willingly go, and then all of a sudden, this is the life they have, and
it's hard to get out of.
how do you get out of it? Yeah.
It's very hard to get out.
Mhm.
And Paige, I ask, how the heck did you get to be such a Paige? I mean, how did you get to be a caregiver for 5 patients after how you've been through?
My patients give me, yeah. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Dr. Jeff.
For those that don't know me, those that don't know,
I'm gonna tell you, I gotta tell you this, you know, first of all, you know, I owe, because, you know, when I came into the recovery process, you know, I had medicated my feelings for so long, and part of my trafficking experience, I had learned how to disassociate myself from the situation. You become totally numb to it. So as time went on, I became very, I had no feelings and no emotions. So when I got clean and I started working on these, my patients helped me in so many different areas. How, you know, the be loyal to them, to be honest with them, to be caring, and it just all kind of worked in my recovery process for me, and it's made me who I am today. So I love what I do, and I get, Jeff, you ask me that question all the time, and I wish I could give you the greatest answer you're looking for. It just happens to be who I am. Even in, you know, I got to tell you something. Even in my addiction, I used to be the one that would be the caring one out of the people. I don't know, would get somewhere deep inside of me, had to believe that there was good in humans, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, I think there's good in all of us. It just has to be brought out, and my patients help bring it out of me. Is that
Tell
good
them
enough answer?
no, yeah, let them know. I know you do, but tell them how you spend your time. I love it.
My whole life is surrounded by my patients. I spend a lot of time taking care of other people. In return, it gives me a satisfaction that is beyond words.
For the older, yeah, for the young folks that don't know me, I used to be an ER doctor at Receiving and Sinai Grace, and Paige helps me get through life. So I'm so thankful for Paige.
No.
So.
Thanks, Jeff.
One interesting experience we had with St. Joe's in Ann Arbor is that we had done some education out there for the social workers and the nurses. This is 3 years ago now, because the nurses are usually the one, you know, the front line, the ones that have the opportunity to spend the time to talk with them. And so one couple months after we were out there doing some education, one of the social workers called us and said, I have a woman here that has been part of a gang of human trafficking here in Ann Arbor, and I think she would be a good fit for your home. And she said, oh, no, you know, I can't give up 2 years of my life. I'm not. Anyways, this woman was a very successful, educated lawyer practicing at the VA with special ops clearance. So she was at a vulnerable state in her life. I wouldn't tell this story, but she does speak with me sometimes. Yeah. And she was a victim of trafficking. And it took her a while before she realized that she did not have the strength or capacity to heal. And she came and she graduated earlier this year, and she's an incredible success story. She's now fully employed and out, you know, she's gave up her law license, but she's, you know, she went to work on social justice. But that's where the hospitals are so critical for the education, because whether it's a social worker or a nurse or doctor, is to reach out. And I should put our information up on the screen.
We have a question from the chat
Yeah.
from Danielle. I think it's more specific to you, Paige. when you went to the hospital, was there any providers you opened to specifically when you were being trafficked? And when you did they did you say something to them, or how did you get their trust that allowed you to trust them?
It was nothing like that for me. My very last, when I OD'd, I was at receiving hospital, and I got to tell you, I had an awful experience. But I got to say this, I've had some really good experience, but my last experience was awful. I got to remind you that I've had endocarditis twice. I've had blood infections 2 or 3 times. I've had surgeries on both of my groins. But to backtrack on this experience that I had at receiving hospital, I was in the hospital for a while, and the doctor came to tell me I was being released, and I was like, no. And I said, you can't release me. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, I need help. I can't go back out there. And his words were to me, well, the only thing I can do for you is send you down to the crisis center downstairs. And I said, if it's keeping me from going back out in the streets, I'm willing to do anything. So now mind you, when I came in, they had to cut off all my clothes. So I had these purple pants on, paper pants. I had this white oversized man's shirt on. I had the yellow hospital socks on. I had 2 black eyes. I had a chunk of hair missing out of my head. And they wheeled me down. He set me in the middle of the floor, and security guard came over to me. He said, I don't care why you're here or what you're doing here, but you can't be here. And I told him, I said, I just got released. I need to go. I was told to go to the crisis center, and he said, the crisis center is over there. But before you go to the crisis center, you have to go sign these papers. So I went over, and the lady pushed a pen to me. And so I signed the paper, and I went to hand her the pen back. And she said, oh, you could just set it down. And as I walked away, I happened to turn around, and she was picking the pin up with a piece of tissue, and she dropped it in the garbage can. You know, you guys, I've been through a lot in my life. I've been broken, beaten, but I never felt more like a monster than I did at that very moment. So they sent me to the crisis. I walked into the crisis center, and the guy said, what are you doing here? And I told him what was going on. And he said, you know what this place is, right? And I said, a crisis center. He said, this was for mental health. And I looked at him, and I almost laughed. As a matter of fact, I think I did laugh. I said, seriously? I said, you don't think I qualify? So he had me fill the paper. Needless to say, I didn't qualify for the program, and I begged him to please help me. I couldn't go back out the streets, and he told me, I'll give you 15 minutes to find a treatment center. And I did. I found a treatment center. I found Harbor Light, and I went into Harbor Light, and I've been clean ever since. But I don't, that's the last thing I ever want to do is put down a hospital, because we need these providers. But I just think a lot of people just don't know, and it makes them react, or they see this revolving door of people coming in and coming in and coming in, and people become desensitized. And I get it, I really do. But I think if it don't work the first time, just planting a seed in somebody and making them realize that it's, you know, you might have to plant the seed 1,000 times before somebody finally gets it and that will accept help. So that's where my experience. But I got to tell you a good experience that I had. That, you know, when I had a blood infection, I walked out of the hospital, and the doctor came to my home and brought me back to the hospital. I never had to pay a hospital bill from this doctor. So there's good times and there's bad times. And I hope I answered the question. I kind of went way out in left field, but I hope I was able to answer the question.
You found a doctor that cared.
I did find a doctor. There are doctors out there that care very much.
Down there, and the ED has all kinds, their doctors care, but sometimes they can not understand what's going on, particularly with sex trafficking, and they can get numb, but they care.
That's good to know. And it's needed, and it needs to be known. And that's what our job is too, is so we can help you identify potential victims that come into your examining room. And I promise you, you will see one. If, like I said earlier, if you haven't already seen one, they will be in your examination room. It's just, what are you going to do when they're there? What are you going to do to help them? That's the question. And I hope we can help you answer them. Answer
What do
those
you think
questions.
what do you think the biggest hospital is for us in the emergency department with these types of
I
patients?
think all, like Sinai Grace is, it's a trauma. Is that the question you're asking me? What do I think that where they come through the most?
What would just be the biggest obstacle for us to safely receive the patient and get them in the right, direction?
Well, I know sometimes it's hard to even get a potential victim to talk because for various reasons, we might be scared to death. We might not even be ready to leave the life. We might be threatened. There might be somebody that's constantly there with us and won't even let us talk. Some of us might be drug addicts and are afraid to leave that life because, first of all, we have an addiction. And then a lot of times, we don't feel worthy to have this help that's offered to us, or we don't even know how to accept it.
I think that that's one of the things, biggest obstacles when you first come here. They're taught to believe that is their value, is a transaction, and that that's all they're worth. And so their self-confidence and their self-esteem has been stripped from them. And so to ask for help is very hard for them. In fact, some of the women, when they first arrive here, we have a beautiful home. It's in Oakland County. It's not a disclosed location, but it's over 6,000 square feet. It's warm, it's loving. And sometimes the women will just sit in the bedroom for a couple days and just cry and say, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this, because that's what they've been taught and they believe it. And it could take weeks, months before they start to really accept that they're worth the love and care and the healing journey that they're on.
Trust is huge. Trust is really huge, especially, and I know there's a lot of male doctors, and even with men, even with a male doctor, I remember trying to manipulate a male doctor while I was in the doctor, and because that's what I was taught to do. So it's just a constant, you got to constantly keep showing, and try to persuade, take a woman in there, take a social worker in there. If you feel like it's happening, do whatever you got to do. Just, I wish I could give you all the right answers at this moment, but I know it's a lot of work and a lot of obstacles to overcome to even help an individual in that state of mind. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. I'm a living witness that it's worth it. Constant, somebody believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself, and actually showing me that I was worth it. A doctor, a nurse putting a gentle hand on my hand saying, you're going to be okay. It made a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you have an amazing story in the human touch, the humanism in medicine is, I think that it's difficult to teach. But once they are willing to open up, I know what to do. But I wonder, in your experience, have you sent out signals that nobody picked up on, or I brought in nurses. I brought in just about anybody I thought who might have a better rapport with the patient than when I had suspects, and I certainly kick a lot of men out of the room. The ones who particularly give the whole history for the patient. But was there something? Were there signals that you sent out that were not received? I mean, that's my biggest worry. Is somebody's reaching out and I miss it.
I think as an individual, we probably have a way of expressing ourselves in different ways. I think my signal was just simply telling them, look, I can't go back out there. If I go back out there, I'm going to die. I think that the doctor did the best that he possibly could with what he had and what he knew. I'm going to tell you who gave me I went in for x-rays at the same incident that happened to me when I OD'd. When I came to, they took me to an X-ray technician actually reached out to me more than anybody, more than the nurse did, more than the doctor did, more than the security guard did, more than the registration lady did, more than that man really showed compassion on a different level. And what he did resonated in me so deeply that that I almost felt like a human. Just, I think maybe simply eye contact, that simple, it's going to be okay. Whatever you're going through, it's going to be okay. And you might have to do it 10 times if this person comes through this revolving door before we finally accept it. Sometimes we don't know how to accept people caring about us. It's hard to accept. It's hard to be honest with ourselves because a lot of us are in such denial about what's happening to us. We have actually believed that somebody else told me that nobody really loves you like I love you. Nobody's going to make you happy like I make you happy. This is the thoughts, and these are the things that we believe because this is what has been taught to us and shown in us in our lives. A lot of us are very vulnerable. We don't believe that there's anything better for ourselves. And that's why it's so important that I do what I do. And I want to be an example to other people to let them know that this is possible. Don't give up on us. Please don't give up on us.
Yeah, we won't. We won't. So I think I heard what you said. So it's breaking down barriers. It's showing true compassion, and then hopefully with that, gaining some trust that somebody can open up.
I think you guys need more survivors. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think having more survivors that have experienced the life would be a start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're perfect. You're a life coach now. You have experience that none of us will ever, so you can speak from a totally different level than anybody else. And we do this with, repeated violence and many other things out there. They are by far the best because I'll never be able to live through your experience, but you have, and you know what these people are going through. So you touch them at a level that none of us ever will.
And I think in our world, we talk about survivor leaders as the women come through the program and launch back into their life to live a successful, independent life, is to offer them the role and community as leaders because they can influence growth. And we're right now on a path to expand our capacity because the need is incredible for the services. And
a need for good programs. Which this is the best program.
Yeah. In my eyes. And because in the long term, it takes, when you lived a life like that, you don't get better in 30 or 60 days. It's the long-term mental health care, physical health care with it, and with the psychiatric support, all working together for each individual person. And so we're in the process of expanding our program to serve more people. And at the end of this year, we have a board of directors. I was very proud to nominate Paige to the board of directors, and she was unanimously accepted. So, I mean, if that isn't a good story from where she was 4 years ago to come through and now be a leader in the community to train and to influence the direction we go as we grow and improve our program. That's what we're trying to do, is give these women the chance to have the life that they never had. No young girl ever woke up and said, my life goal is to be raped 5 times a night for year after year, decade after decade. So for the opportunity for us to give them the life, we say we don't do anything for them. We give them the tools to do it. And Paige and her other sisters, they're sisters, they're a family here, have done it. And they're remarkable women. They're really remarkable women. And
Absolutely.
We're moving them back into the community. So they're graduating. We've got 2 that are coming up, getting ready to graduate after the first of the year, and then more coming in. So these are women that are gonna really make an influence. in
I
the-
think what's so uniquely different about this program, because I gotta tell you, I've been in so many programs in my life. That this is the first true family that I've ever had. And it's all I've ever wanted, you know what I'm saying? And it's not once I left the program, I'm gone. I'm part of this program for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's made a difference. And I've said it once, I say it again. They taught me how to live a life. I have a great life. Oh my God, I'm getting ready to get married. I have a great life. I've never thought in a million years that I could be comfortable with who I am today. I could look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy for the first time in my life.
Any, that's okay. Any questions or comments or? We thank you for your interest and support. And I know I didn't go through my slides, but it's always more impactful to just speak and tell the story rather than go through the slides.
I don't know if it's a question, but I want to give a lead in because it's so amazing. How the heck can a woman who's been through what you've been through be engaged to a man? That just blows me away. It's amazing.
He's a good man, trust me.
I know he is. I know he is. I'm feeding the questions that I want the world to know.
It took a lot of work on myself, a lot of forgiving men. I had to forgive men. I had to forgive myself. I had to be honest with myself. And I had to allow myself to be loved as well as give love. And that's what makes our relationship so unique.
Thank you guys so much for coming and talking to us. This is very inspiring. We hope we can do this in person once, you know, everything kind of settles down. We don't have as many people sick. And I know, guys, this is kind of a heavy topic before Christmas, but this is just super important. And, you know, we really hope that this makes a difference. We can, you know, just catch more of these victims that come through our department, especially. So thank you again. We hope to have you guys in person soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks everyone for fantastic grand rounds, and please, all of you, have yourselves a safe and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Jeff, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I hope I
Dr.
didn't-
O'Neill, thank you. And Dr. Sweeney, thank you for getting us this audience with everybody. And all of you residents, have yourselves a hopefully relaxing holiday at some point in the next couple of weeks. We will not be having grand rounds next week, so please enjoy your time and be safe and well. And we look forward to a new year coming.